It's a bustling Friday night at the Dakota Jazz Club, where the 3-time Emmy-winning actor, singer, and theater professor, T. Michael Rambo's infectious passion for art welcomes you at the door.
Hey everybody, how do you do? I got something in store for you.
His rich voice reaches every corner of the room, and it's corny and it's cheesy. But looking at the crowd, it feels as though his smile reaches the corners of every heart. He sings with the conviction of someone who's fought for it. And in the case of T. Michael,
I was a banker, did my undergrad in marketing, then went back to get a degree in finance. And I found myself with a lot of money at an early age and not a lot of management skills to utilize that, and became addicted to cocaine and heroin. And that sent me onto the streets. I lost everything and was homeless in Austin, Texas.
he has.
Back to square one.
He was a man in his 20s with a one-way ticket from Texas to Minnesota in search of healing when,
I didn't find theater, theater found me.
at a frozen yogurt shop,
And I would just sing little songs. Have some yogurt, have a twist. How about some sprinkles? How about this? It's some yogurt today.
where he was scouted for the opera by the head of the Minnesota Opera Company, and
I got that role and I never looked back.
the dive into creativity became a new form of healing.
I found myself waiting to meet myself.
Is knowing your character also knowing yourself?
I think so. Yeah, I do. I think that knowing the character requires a more intimate understanding of who yourself. The parts of myself that I am able to peel away give me permission to know those characters or those elements, those attributes, or those and access to those particular parts of myself. And I'm like, oh.
Though it was laced with uncertainty.
For me, it was just a sense of stepping into the unknown. Theater has taught me that the greatest emotions and the two most pivotal in any conversation are fear and love. Love of something, fear of losing it. It's like tightrope walking on a bicycle. It's like being a daredevil. It's like death-defying sometimes. But at the same time, it's so freeing.
And that freedom is what allowed him to know the necessity of every part of his journey.
Art opens and closes the wound at the same time. And it became a way for an outlet for me to feel present and alive, for me to make amends to my body and my spirit, recognizing that I had done harm to me.
Including his past.
When I drink, I break out. Teeth, windows, everything. I've been sober 34 years for a reason.
My former self led me here in the rooms of AA and NA and 12-stepping. There's a phrase people say that folks often get kind of weirded out by, that you're a grateful recovering alcoholic and addict. And I'm grateful because I recognize that my former self is why I'm here. And so I would not give anything else. I wouldn't give nothing for my journey. My journey has brought me the joy that I live in. And so there's much peace and contentment, and there's much satisfaction and gratification knowing that who I was gave me the opportunity to step into who I've become by leaving me alone, destitute, and indigent, and open, and so tattered and torn and totally open.
Open to taking risks.
You never know what the universe has in store for you. What you do know is that preparedness makes whatever is in store for you possible. And so I've always been prepared and ready. And where I was not ready, I was prepared to get ready.
And through reconciling with himself through his art, he's found a love for the uncertainty of the future.
The love of what we do gives us the resilience, the sense of purpose, and the sense of being able to achieve and attain our greater yet to be. That which is not known, but is greater when we allow ourselves to lean into it and be present and open and available to the possibilities.
T. Michael Rambo.
Hello, I have a question for you if you don't mind me asking. What is your life philosophy?
Life philosophy. That's a good one. I'd have to think on that.
My life philosophies. Cash money.
Cash money.
My life philosophy. Just take it one day at a time. Try to put your best foot forward, and whatever happened yesterday, if it's bad, don't dwell on it, and if it's good, take it and move forward.
Even though stuff might go, rocky up and down, but everything will turn out nice. As long as it's up to you to change how you want your life.
The 3 P's, the pain, the process, and the promise. If you can endure the pain while you go through the process, you can make it to a promise.
I like that one.
I feel like it's important to listen to your intuition and your gut.
Like you live and you learn.
Live a healthy, sober lifestyle and love life.
You love life?
I love life.
What makes you love life?
This beautiful life. I don't know. Just please yourself, because you're the only person that matters, I guess, at the end of the day.
I won't know. I won't have no idea.
Just do the best you can, I guess.
Ain't no words to live by. What are the words to live by? Living life, I guess. It's easy. Ain't nothing to it.
There I stand, alone, in the cold, armed with nothing but my audio kit and microphone. Getting rejected on frat row. Again.
No comment.
And again. Hello! Would you mind if I ask you a quick question?
Shawty, a question?
No, yeah.
What's up?
Okay. And again.
I'm just scared to talk to girls.
I've been searching for the ever-elusive sorority girl since my first dorm mate introduced me to the world of secret initiations, being gone every weekend, and a life that felt like one I had seen in the movies. But with each of my attempts to understand Greek life, it's continued to evade me, to intimidate me, and each time I come back with more questions. My initial one being, why do people want to be in sororities? So, I venture further down frat row. But after another round of rejections and a panic pit stop in a calzone shop, I get in my car and decide I am done. I have been vanquished. And as I sit, the question I began asking myself changes. Now I'm faced with the question, and I can't help but wonder, why am I so intimidated? What makes sororities so intimidating?
I viewed them as very, straight and white spaces. And for the most part, I think I was right.
Iris is from Alpha Sigma Kappa.
We do have people who are very traditionally, stereotypically, sorority girls. And according to my friends, I fall in that category. But I don't think I completely count because I am queer.
The Elle Woods of the electrical engineers studies in a major that she says expects her to be
an absolute nerd who never leaves their mom's basement.
And is on leadership for an organization perceived as being for
blondes, kind of boy crazy, very rich backgrounds.
So she found a new way to fight the old stereotypes.
It's not an overwhelming part of my life. And that's one reason that I know I made the right choice with ASK.
Because she had seen it go wrong before.
I had a friend who dropped her sorority for that reason. There's kind of an overarching sorority culture that was present in hers, and she didn't really fit that traditional rich whites, blondes, kind of goes out to the bars every weekend. I don't know, she was more not introverted, but kind of more the type to go to more DIY shows rather than the bars, and she wasn't straight, and there was kind of that everyone is doing this and everyone is participating in these things, and if you don't have an interest in that or if you don't really fit into it as well, that can be exclusionary. One thing that I've kind of thought about a bit is it's kind of an inherently exclusionary space just because not everyone gets in and not everyone can get in. So to some extent, you are creating an exclusive group. And I think it's really hard to navigate, okay, how do we have an exclusive group that's also inclusive?
An inclusive sorority seems in itself to be a paradox. And intentionally inclusive sororities seem to be in the minority. But do other people feel this way? To find out, I went back to frat row. I'm back. And I'm cold. Hello there. Hi. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Why are sororities intimidating?
Oh my god. I think they're intimidating because there's a perception of the girls who are in them. They just they seem Like, I know if I knew them, they'd be really nice, but they all have the same look, and they're all very scary. They're hegemonic.
Yeah.
They're scary.
I don't know. No one ever really talks about the sororities, and when you do meet the girls, you like automatically think that like they're bitchy and stuff.
Ooh, I'm kind of intimidated by them because they're very cliquey sometimes. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
And I just don't feel like I belong there.
They're all stereotypically white women that just like feed into propaganda of what people should be in like society.
And if they don't fit into their image, they like to judge other people.
Especially at like a place that's as white as this.
I'm not like intimidated by them.
It's not really intimidating.
Hey,
like
that's
here
okay.
they're
It's
like
not intimidating.
here they're like not as like you don't have to be in one to be cool. Like
They're not really, are they?
We don't know.
We're exchange students.
We're not American, so we don't know anything about sororities or frats.
They're not intimidating.
They're only intimidating if you let them intimidate you.
But I only found people who were on the outside, like me. To know where my feelings of being intimidated come from, I need an insider's point of view. Someone deeply in sorority life who's willing to tell me what I'm missing. Someone like
Emily Oswald, and I am the director of the Office for Fraternity and Sorority Life here at the University of Minnesota.
who is a sorority alumni and now works to create equitable sorority and fraternity spaces.
One of the things that people don't really recognize is some of those past histories, right? And it's like, we're just a diverse world now, and so we're diverse organizations now, and so that past stuff doesn't matter. And it's like, that's actually not how equity works, because it just continues to repeat itself, or we're not assessing what boundaries or inequities existed beforehand to getting to that place of equity.
The history of sororities goes so much deeper. They were founded during a time when women weren't accepted in academic spaces, so women created them as a way to work in private spaces and to be successful students.
They were barely gender integrated, where they might have not been allowed to take certain classes or study in the library or gather in groups, or their housing was restricted, or they had curfews that limited their ability to like go and be in the library late at night. If we don't band together, like we're not graduating.
And the University of Minnesota specifically had their hand in inclusionary efforts.
The University of Minnesota played a critical role with the University of Wisconsin actually in starting the process of removing race or religious-based requirements to most of our national sororities in Panhellenic back in the 60s. It's like we want every organization to document with us that your organization doesn't require you to have these restrictive membership policies, right? Like that is critical to not just who we became today and who we are now, but how we got there and like making sure that that history stays relevant and consistent.
And now, those past decisions that strove for equity paved the way for generations to follow.
And I think that like modern womanhood is all about like what it means to have choice and navigating those choices through a litany of examples of people who have made those choices before you and who fought really, really hard to have opportunity and choice moving ahead, not even knowing what the choices could be about.
Although sororities began as an inclusionary space for women's success, over time, it began to be perceived as an organization that focuses on vanity and social status.
Perceptions about sorority life specifically does come a lot from media. The most baseline stereotype that gets perpetuated a lot is just like these women are dumb or are only interested in like vanity or in surface level things.
I think the biggest misconception is that sorority people are somehow different from like non-sorority people. Like I don't think it's really that different from if you were not in a sorority but you just had a big friend group and you're hanging with that friend group all the time.
But more often than not, that community of women is reflective of the society those women live in. And I think so often we don't view out from how women are socialized, and then when they gather in groups, we project those assumptions onto them even more.
Now, it's seen as an exclusionary space made for people that look and act a certain way.
That is wild to me because sorority women are some of the most driven, in control of their own life, women I know. And
everyone is so talented and so successful. People are just off doing these incredible things that's incredible for everyone. And I genuinely feel like we are a space full of people that are going to go off and do just incredible things with their life. But at the same time, like, we still have so much fun.
I think women can be a lot of ands, and a lot of times we just assign ors to women, especially when they're in groups of like, this is the smart group and that group over there is the pretty group. But it's like, I know plenty of women who are incredibly intelligent, incredibly fit, incredibly beautiful, incredibly, and it's all these ands, right? They're competitive, they're in control, they have goals, and they do all of these things, right? And so I think those are those perceptions that don't make sense to me when I interact with sorority women. these women have helped build me and helped create an environment where I, get to build up other women too. And these are some of the most impressive women I could possibly know.
I'm slowly losing control of my fingers because they are so numb. So I think that should probably be a wrap. I think that's a sign. The Minnesota Uber and Lyft Drivers Association, also known as MOLDA, have spent years speaking about pay inequity for rideshare drivers. And the Minneapolis City Council listened by giving them the green light to an ordinance this year to pay drivers $1.40 per mile, 51 cents per minute, and $5 per ride. But in response, the rideshare companies, Uber and Lyft, made the decision to pump the brakes, and if changes aren't made, they'll leave Minneapolis on May 1st. With a sprawling city and a vast campus, the demand for rideshare services continues to increase. But the question remains: who will pay for it? Whether it be an airport trip, a ride across town, or a night out on campus, many students agree.
Well, that would suck for me. I don't know what I would do.
When do you use it?
Like, all the time. I don't know. Just, when I don't want to drive or can't drive. Yeah.
It wouldn't be very, beneficial for anybody for it to, just go away, because I feel like a lot of people do use it, especially on the weekends.
Without a rideshare service, they'd be stranded.
That would kind of be bad because I don't have a license here, so I use Uber primarily to get around. Hope it doesn't go down.
I've really only used it when I forget that the light rail goes down after 12 p.m. So if it's not here, I kind of get stranded in the middle of the night without somewhere to go.
As walking on campus at night continues to be dangerous.
Well, I know people who go to frats and stuff and bars at late at night, and so if they don't have Ubers, it's gonna be rough because cities are not safe. So walking home is not fun.
According to the University of Minnesota's Department of Public Safety's daily crime log, there has been an average of 140 crimes responded to around campus since the beginning of 2024, including at least 86 cases involving theft or burglary from a car, home, or business, as well as at least 46 cases involving assault, stalking, a missing persons case, and sexual or domestic violence. Though the Department of Public Safety says that crime rates on and off campus are low, and that crime in Dinkytown is decreasing, hence the demand for a safe ride. But what do people and Uber drivers think?
I'm pretty great, how are you?
There's only one way to find out.
And I'm doing a podcast about Uber and Lyft leaving Minneapolis.
Oh yeah?
Do you have any thoughts about it? Or could I maybe ask you about it?
I sat in the back seat of an Uber driver who wishes to be unnamed, who said,
I think I think Uber and Lyft are both on the plat. They're gonna fail. They're on the way to failure completely.
Really?
Because they've pissed off all the drivers and they've taken advantage of, over the years, things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be paid very well, and now the pay scale is very poor. You can only go through so many drivers before you're completely out.
and former Uber driver.
Oh, I used to work.
You used to work for Uber?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what your name is?
Will.
Will? What's your last name, Will?
Prada.
Prada? Okay. So what do you think about the fact that Uber or Lyft might be leaving the cities?
It's pretty crazy. Honestly, I find that very hard to find out that Uber and Lyft is leaving, especially because I'm pretty sure a lot of people use it for a job and just for daily income. I used to do that a lot back in California, and I know how it feels to have your job just basically leave.
Both who say Uber was not their main income.
It's not what it used to be. It used to be extremely lucrative 5, 6, 7 years ago. It was a great money-making job.
Oh, what do you think changed?
Greed. They used to be transparent with their fares. Uber and Lyft, they'd show you how much you made, how much they made. Now you can't even see. You have no idea how much they make. Well, put it this way, the first year I drove for Uber 8 years ago, they had a Christmas party for the drivers. That was the only year they did that, one time. So I don't know. Take that for what it's worth, I guess.
But that it's important to have.
I feel like I would need it a lot. I'm not really from Minnesota. I use flights here and there, going back to where I used to live and whatnot, just to visit family. And I do need an Uber to get there. So I find that very hard.
I mean, I'd like to see him succeed because the way it was laid out originally, everybody was happy. The passengers were happy, the drivers were happy, everybody was happy. They were making good money. Uber was obviously making enough. That's a little different now. When they never had a Christmas party again, that kind of answered my question.
On who they prioritize?
No, maybe. They never ever had another Christmas party, only one.
Oh, thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Have a good night.
Yes, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
A tenuous impact that, while not everyone's first thought, becomes their only thought when they don't have a ride. With your current culture and campus news, I'm Emily Storm with Radio K's The Real College Podcast. We've all been there, whether it be taking dire measures as to not make it late to class, commuting to campus from out of town, or other on-campus necessities. Most students say they've fallen prey to the robotic arms of the University of Minnesota's parking garage and their fees.
How much do you think you pay for parking per month, maybe?
Like 300, 250 to 300 maybe.
For me, it's around 200, even though it may be inconvenient at times. And
Room and board.
It's a little bogus that it's $6 every class. So we have a class in St. Paul, so it just kind of makes sense to just drive for both instead of trying to catch a train like 3 times. Yeah. I wish it was free for students, but it makes sense why they have to charge.
It costs way too much to park on campus, and that causes a lot of students like myself not to bring their cars. So it's kind of hard to get home now that I don't have my car here, but it's just too much to park on campus.
Yeah, I'm like a 40-minute drive, so that's a cost of its own. It's a lot.
And after realizing how much I was paying to park on a campus that has over 6,500 public parking spots and approximately 80,000 people on it in a day, I also realized that it costs the most from 9 to 5 on weekdays. And that's when students are likely commuting for class. And each of those spots are $3 per spot per hour. That has to be a lot of money. So I asked, where does that money go? And why does it cost so much? This is Rob Allenson,
Director of Parking and Transportation,
who told me that despite the fact that the University of Minnesota owns all of the parking garages and lots, parking and transportation itself is
what is called a non-supported unit, so we are self-funded. So all of our expenses and costs have to be paid for through the revenues that we generate, and so every year, as part of that budget process, we will make any rate recommendations to support covering all of those expenses.
And because there are so many people that park here, they had to build more ramps, and they're still paying off that debt.
It's fairly supply and demand driven, so if you made parking free and everyone drove to campus, you would have a significant demand on parking. We'd have to potentially build even more parking supply.
But that's not all the Department of Parking and Transportation accounts for.
There's many factors. We also, with our parking revenues, we also support our campus transit system as well as other transportation infrastructure. So, for example, we will support maintaining our sidewalks and our plazas and our roadways and those sorts of things.
So what students pay for going in and out of parking ramps isn't just for the parking ramps, it's also for any other modes of transportation?
It supports other transportation modes also, yes. The transit shuttles and buses that you see running around campus that have the big gopher on them and say gopher trip.
Gotcha. So then any like repairs or anything to the buses, that's what's going to take into account as well?
That absolutely flows into it.
With a $40 million budget that is entirely self-funded through fees, they pay for transit maintenance, transit system subsidies, and transit pass systems like the Universal Transit Pass, plus operations and payroll. But Rob says he would prefer that people not drive their individual cars.
We work very hard to put systems together so that folks, if they really want to, they don't need to pay for parking at all. So, we've in the last 2 years, we've rolled out our transit programs, the Universal Transit Pass, and the employee transit pass. So for example, if someone doesn't want to pay for parking, they could actually drive to a park and ride facility on the transit system and then ride the bus in for free, and they won't have to pay for parking. We also are extremely encouraging for people to take a bike to campus.
In line with the university's goal to be carbon neutral by 2025, carbon emissions have already been cut by over half since 2008, but they still remain to be over 300,000. Already, transportation has had programs to help this, including a parking garage lighting project that reduced electricity by 32%, and the recent universal transit passes. These projects, combined with other forms of transportation, help them to get closer to this goal.
The biggest piece of advice that I would give anyone coming to campus is to really look at your options and think about them ahead of time and see, what makes the most sense. If you can take transit to campus, if you can look for those opportunities for a park and ride situation, and then also our pedestrian infrastructure, because transportation really takes all of those components. It takes pedestrians, it takes bikes, it takes transit, and it takes vehicles to make it work. But I think that's probably the biggest advice. Most people in their parking, when they think about parking and they think about their trip, they'd like to get as absolutely close as they can to where they're going, and oftentimes that's what drives their decision, and they're not necessarily looking at the alternatives. And so that's why I'm always encouraging people, really look at the alternatives and think about it.
So when you can, use alternative transportation. But every time you spend money on parking, you're not only paying to park, you're paying for my bus driver today, Brian's, paycheck. Hello. And his bus, the gas, and the sidewalks the students had to take to get there. Just inside the revolving doors of a Hyatt hotel holds an event laced with intrigue. Deeper inside, beyond tables of mementos, t-shirts, and door staff, lies a hub of spontaneity,
Do you want in here?
art, and eccentric shows.
Captain and Mabel will be here today. They've been on America's Got Talent, and their claim to fame, Simon Cowell once called them the most disgusting couple on earth. So they'll be swallowing swords with weights and dangling weights from their eyelids. Yeah, don't try it at home. Try it at a friend's house.
For 3 days, a hotel ballroom is transformed into a tattoo convention, filled with acts, people, and artists from all over the country, coming to share their passion for tattoos and oddities.
And you tattoo yourself?
I did until I got money, and then I paid some other yahoos to tattoo me. That and all the other people in the industry. I'm an artist myself, so, trading ink with legends and all that fun stuff.
But tattoos themselves mean something different to everyone. Regardless of reason, each person cared enough to put it on their body for the rest of their life. Each person becoming a permanent canvas to display their lived experiences.
I am reporting from the Minneapolis Tattoo Festival, asking people, what is the story behind one of your tattoos?
So, what's the story behind people's tattoos? They represent a certain time in people's lives.
I believe most people get tattoos because they're in tune to their feelings at that moment in time and want to either express pain, love.
To commemorate milestones of growth.
The most recent one I got is homage to my daughter. We adopted her from Ethiopia, so it's an outline of Ethiopia with her birthday and her name and the date of when she was adopted, and a picture of Simba from The Lion King because she was a huge fan of The Lion King, or still is. And she just turned 18 yesterday, so I had it done for her 18th birthday.
One of my tattoos is a recreation of an illustration from my favorite illustrator that kind of started my career and inspiration into going into art.
And I went in there and I sold some dope to this lady, and she was like, yo, I own this tattoo shop downtown called The Dark Side. And I was like, oh yeah, so I went down there and I traded her some weed for a tattoo, and she did this Bonnie and Clyde tat on me, and it changed my life. And I was like, dang, you could do art and tattoos. And then I started doing sick tats.
Looking back on childhood.
Mine are garage tattoos. So I was like 13. It was done with a guitar string, that kind of thing.
With a guitar
yeah, dipped in ink. I'm 48, so yeah, they're 35 years old, I guess, those tattoos. I had to hide them from my parents, that kind of thing. So mine are not professionally done. That's my story. That was a boyfriend. doing that.
I was 13 years old, just doodling in like 7th grade class. I drew it, and then when I turned 18, I brought it to a tattoo artist, and he did it.
And what is the drawing of?
It's it's a kind of a dead tree, but in a scene with like nice sunny weather, like warm weather. And I have a matching one on the other leg that I didn't draw, that it has a living tree and a thunderstorm. It was just kind of the two states of my mental health at the time. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I don't even know. Childhood. Just being kids, dumb with tattoo machines. Just tattooing each other. That's about it. I don't really have like crazy stories. Yeah.
Or just living in the now.
Well, this one that we're getting right now looks sick as and that's about it.
I had $100 to spend, so I gotta get what you get at a biker shop.
I asked a rapper what his favorite cereal was, and I got that cereal tattoo.
It was cool and I liked it, and I wanted it on my body forever.
I don't know, the vulture. I love vultures. I'm certified vulture.
You're a certified vulture?
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
For moments and people past.
I have this one here that my best friend drew for me before she passed away in a car accident, and I got this tattooed in memory with a couple of my other friends of her.
Me and my best friend each got like a yin and yang in college because we were randomly assigned as roommates and just like soulmates as friends.
This one here with the lilacs is from when I was a kid. I'd pick up lilacs with my mom.
I have a cardinal on my arm right here, and it's for my grandparents who died, because I believe in reincarnation.
To a moment to come.
I'll do my first one. This paper airplane. My wife and I, before we got married, we were in Africa volunteering, and everyone had kind of made this paper airplane kind of like our thing. And what was so funny is I was like, hey, why don't we go get a tattoo and we get that paper airplane? And she was like completely also oblivious to the fact that I was going to propose on this trip. So we get this tattoo. It's super cute and amazing. She's feeling great. We have something that we share. And then the next day we climbed a like little crater mountain and I proposed at sunset. Knowing that I was going to commit and do that and propose just gave me all the inspiration to just go and do it with her.
And moments people might not remember.
These roses right there, they're a cover-up from a drunken night at tequila when I tattooed a pink and purple vagina on my shin, and I don't remember it. And I had to cover it up once. I was in a grocery store wearing shorts, and a little boy was like, "Mommy, what is that on his leg?" And she saw it, and she goes, "Oh, that's a seashell. It's a seashell, I swear." And I figured just to be a little more publicly viewed, I should probably cover that up.
And some that people have very thoroughly thought out.
I want to get a W on each one of my butt cheeks. So when I do cartwheels, they'll say, "Wow, Mom, wow." And then on my right butt cheek, I'm going to put the words "your name." That way you go to people, "Hey, $20, I got your name on my butt." You win every time.
You put a lot of thought into this.
Exactly.
I have a Mayan goddess. That's my ethnic descent. We believe in our culture that when a mother delivers her child, that it's almost the equivalent as a warrior in battle. We were born to battle this life when we were born, so the cycling of life in our spirit means a lot to us, and that's where we believe our birth and our death begins and it never ends. We are one of many trillions that have the blessing to be living this life and meet beautiful people like you and explore and give that gift to others. That's what I believe.
"'Twas the month before Christmas, and all through the yew, the holiday feelings had all gone awry. Why, you may ask? We don't have a clue. Have the halls not been decked? The treats not been baked? Whatever it may be, trust that I am on the case. Still the spirit's been kept by the students with care, in hopes that that old holiday feeling soon would be there."
Hi there, could I ask you a question?
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, how are you?
Good. What's going on?
Why does Christmas feel different, like now versus when you were a kid?
That's a good question. Because now I know Santa's not real.
I don't believe in Santa anymore,
I
but
found out Santa's not real.
Santa's not real. For all the listeners that are just hearing that right now, I'm so sorry. What do you have to say?
I'm sad it's not real either.
And the truth is, there becomes a point where you realize you are Santa, and being Santa is exhausting. And then you have to drink Red Bull to make it happen.
When I was little, I didn't have to shop or bake or anything. I could just sit there and go, "Oh, toys, tree, fun. What's in that box?" And now all that magic is gone, but I have to create it for others. So there's some joy in that.
I feel like Christmas feels different now because I feel like I'm in between roles right now. Like, I don't have kids myself, and I also am no longer a kid, so I feel like, I'm just in between. But I mean, I feel like it's still the same as it was. Like, it's still the same people, the same amount of love there. It's just like, right now, I don't have a role, but 10, 15 years down the line when I have kids, I feel like it'll feel magical again.
While most of the world is saying ho, 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 most college students are saying no, no, no. While December for most means hot cocoa and sledding, for college students, it means finals and dreading. But it's not just that. There's something new missing. The feeling that used to come with the holiday season. Where did the magic of the Christmas season go?
When we think about how kids look at Christmas, there's a lot of awe and wonder and how do these things happen? They tend to experience sort of the magic of Christmas. And as we get older, we have conversations with people, we learn more about the rituals involved in celebrating Christmas and who's responsible for some of the different magic that we see. And as we shift more into adulthood, there's some expectation that rather than experiencing the magic, you're helping to create it. So it comes with a little more stress.
Amanda Woodward specializes in early social cognition. She says that the things we've done every year that are unique to our families are part of what made Christmas feel special.
When we decorate the tree, who's doing the stuff like getting things out of the attic and more of the chore aspect versus who's hanging the first ornament or who gets to hang the star. I think when you look at it from a kid perspective, there's a lot more unknown about what's happening. So it's more fun and excitement, and really the older people in family units or in the community are trying to make those moments special.
As we get older, your role in the holiday season changes. It's less about getting presents and more about giving them.
Late-stage capitalism has made the world a very scary place.
And everything that entails.
Are you hosting? Are you having people over? Are you trying to coordinate who's bringing what and making sure everybody can eat all of the different things? What did I do last year? What went well? What didn't go well? What did my kids like? What do they really want this year? How many activities can we cram in?
We begin to know more, our relationships get more nuanced, and we're beginning to ask different questions.
How do we keep the spirit alive, and what do we want our family to celebrate? It's very, very different across family dynamics. It's very different for individual situations. It's even different based on how kids find out what's really happening.
And returning for the holidays becomes new for so many other reasons.
I have to see my family and tell them that I'm a girl now.
I have to see my family and tell them that I'm not a girl anymore.
Now, old family holiday rituals are replaced by new ones, like driving home for Christmas and just being with family in ways that you're not able to when you're at college.
There's more intentionality in bringing people together. It's not just you show up and, oh, look, someone's there, but there's this agreement that we're going to get together, we're going to spend time together, we're going to share food, and we're going to have this connection in ways that you might not see at other points in the year. There's still ways to have a holiday that has magic in it, even as you're older. So there's traditions that you did when you were a kid that you can still continue. And the meaning may change a bit, but it can still have that sort of fun side to things.
It definitely feels like personal now. Like I get to share it with more people than when I did when I was little, so that's nice. There's still magic, but it's definitely like a different magic, I would say.
But it still is like, I guess it's more about like the people and less about the presents.
How I perceived Christmas when I was younger, because all I kept caring about was just getting toys and whatnot. But now I don't really care too much about presents. I just like to spend time with my loved ones, my friends, and my family. So it really does depend on like how you saw it now then to how you see it now.
Whether it's who gets to hang the first ornament or making Christmas cookies, you can still do those things and they can still be fun and they can still bring magic to the holiday, just in a different way than what it might have been like when you were a kid.
In defense of Gen Z, they're not hitting the milestones the way every generation before them did. They're owning homes at a lower rate. This is wild. 45% of people between ages 18 to 29 still live with their parents. They feel left behind by the economy, and they also see everybody trying to not age. So that they
please, get a job.
Boo-hoo.
There's a million job openings in this country.
Life is so
Get a
important.
job.
Go home and get a job. Go home, get a job. Get a job.
Trouble. Are
Gen Z in the workplace. Employers are reporting that this generation is the most difficult to work with.
The best advice for women in business: get your ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days. And show up and do the work.
You can't keep them in the house. They've got to go fend for themselves out there, and there are lots of jobs.
Every generation has a series of defining events, ones that impact their upbringing and shift the way they see other generations.
My generation, Gen X, right? We grew up in a world where hierarchies were so much more not just real but accepted as that's just life.
That's David Samuels, a political science professor at the University of Minnesota.
It still is life, but your generation is all like, that's BS. We got to end all that, not just with feminism, but Black Lives Matter and everything, particularly college students who are super conscious about these kinds of issues.
Gen Z is in a unique spot. I think one of the things I think of in their uniqueness is COVID hit at a very interesting time. I've heard directly from people who identify as Gen Z is that things like networking and social interactions are terrifying.
Aware of this generational stratification is
Becky Borg, and I am the Assistant Director for External Relations and Career Coach in the Hubbard School of Journalism and Mass Communication here at the University of Minnesota. Whereas for folks who, like, that's how they built their career and now they're on the phasing to retirement side of things or something, and that's a completely natural thing, they're wondering, like, well, why isn't this new hire asking to grab coffee? It's because the new grad, new entry person is completely terrified, doesn't even know that's something they should do because it wasn't a thing in COVID, or because some of those natural interactions that had been a little bit more embedded aren't there now.
Because the world isn't what it used to be. And that impacts how other generations react to it.
You go into the work world and you have a boss and you have to do what you're told and you just show up on time all the time, every day. You got to dress a certain way. It's constraining, right? And it's not just constraining in behavior, but politically you recognize, like, oh man, the world is so much more confining and constraining than you want it to be or that you may have thought it would be.
From a pull yourself up by the bootstraps generation came another that prioritizes mental health.
Pull yourself up by the bootstraps is inequitable and unfair because someone who already has lots of access to resources, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps is a much easier, simpler task. You know, maybe that means the boots are already on and there's just a heel stuck. And someone else, that means they don't even know where they are. The boots don't even exist.
But it comes with an uneven dynamic.
There's always the kind of get off my lawn. You kids when I was growing up, we walked uphill both ways to school and you know, I had to struggle this, that, and whatever, even if you were privileged. You know, and every generation thinks that the new generation is soft, right? Because, you know, the world has changed.
But what are some factors as to how the world has changed to make it harder for generations to enter the workforce?
Folks who maybe are first-generation college students or have been immigrants themselves or their family members or experience other socioeconomic, cultural, language, etc. barriers to navigating our systems, whichever system, take your pick. Education, healthcare, finding a job, you know, what cultural expectations exist, all of those kind of things.
Pressure is rising in the housing market, and according to the National Library of Medicine, COVID stunted formative years for Gen Z professionally and mentally, as Gen Z exhibits higher levels of anxiety and depression. So, how can Gen Z enter the workplace?
I would encourage to draw on what you've learned about yourself in other situations of transition when you started college or whatever. What's worked? Do you need to make sure that you don't overbook yourself because you're introverted and you need some space to decompress, and you know that, you know, knowing that a transition of any sort, like your brain is making all kinds of new connections and figuring out all kinds of things, what do you need to know or need to do in that space?
So how can Gen Z confidently enter the workplace in a way that is reflective and true to our experiences, but also allows room for growth?
Each generation brings with it its own positive attributes, its own opportunities to learn. And so I think trying to really understand that even if something maybe isn't the way you would do it, there's still a lot to be learned. And so leverage what is helpful, just take it in and know that the things you're bringing can be very valuable as well.
From the front steps of political leaders' offices to the parking lots of political rallies.
They don't want it to end. That's their job.
One thing is certain. In anticipation of an upcoming election season, the divide on party lines goes deeper, to within parties themselves, as they oppose leaders within their own parties. It was once said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. But what about within a party?
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. This is Maddie Robinson and Emily Storm. We are here on the scene by the Doubletree by Hilton in Bloomington, Minnesota.
On Monday, February 26th,
So Minnesota,
Nikki Haley rallied in Minnesota.
I hear that you're strong. I hear that you're loud. I hear that you know what it takes to get things done.
A little over a week before the Super Tuesday primaries.
So now is time for us to do it.
And among the people walking in and the scattered yard signs, something stuck out to us.
We see a gaggle of Trump supporters by a stop sign by the highway.
Party members protesting a rally within their own party.
We're just speaking our mind.
Yeah, what's on your mind?
We don't
have a choice.
Yes.
You what?
We want people to have a choice when it comes to voting, so we can have a choice. So our choice is not Nikki Haley.
And what's more, they don't even know each other.
I support Donald John Trump.
He's for America. He's for everybody.
Each of them showed up independently, only to protest the Republican presidential candidate.
Look, we have a decision to make. Do we go with more of the same? Or do we move in a new direction?
Nikki Haley. Haley rallied across the United States for the presidential primary, and the eventual results of that primary
on the Democratic side, here's the storyline that we're watching,
showed that this inter-party resistance isn't just on the right.
The uncommitted vote is a protest vote against President Joe Biden, and right now it stands at about 20%.
Spurred on by the grassroots campaign of Vote Uncommitted Minnesota, 45,000 Minnesotans on the left voted uncommitted in protest of President Biden.
Now they hope that President Joe Biden really hears their message loud and clear, and that's been the goal all along.
And they're not alone. With an election looming in November, an election season has begun. And according to voting results reported by NPR, over 350,000 Democrat voters voted uncommitted nationally.
They want the White House to call for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza.
And with heightened contention in foreign policy, the cost of living, economy, and so many more things, the 2024 election will continue to bring a resistance between parties.
Donald Trump's campaign is about him.
All he's doing is talking about himself. Because it's always about him.
Not America, not you.
And we need it to be about the American people.
He calls those who oppose him vermin.
Joe Biden's referring to opponents as fascists, and Donald Trump's referring to opponents as vermin.
He's willing to sacrifice our democracy.
And we can do better than two 80-year-old candidates for president.
And leaders within them.
Everybody in America is at risk.
The trajectory of 2020 changed when one woman posted a video to her Facebook and Instagram. In a 10-minute and 9-second video, Darnella Fraser's video of George Floyd was the ignition to a growing aspect of protesting that spread like wildfire: social media. In an era of digital natives with a high level of involvement in social justice, social media has become a protesting tool for college students across the nation.
It's really like a modern tool for our movement. Obviously, that is not where we should be doing our activism. See what's on social media, see the actions that are happening, go, that's so cool. And when they repost it, also are motivated to go out to the next one.
That gained a lot of media attention. We need eyes. Like, people notice when we do something like this.
Originally starting with hashtags on Twitter to garner attention to movements, social media is now used as a tool for protesting through informing people of daily protesting schedules, holding institutions accountable,
live streaming to keep the cops accountable to themselves, because even last night some of them didn't have their body cameras on,
telling people how they can help in the movement, gaining momentum, and giving updates in real time to people invested in what is happening on the ground.
There have always been people fighting for justice.
According according to Emily Chu, who organizes with Students for a Democratic Society.
It takes organization, it takes work, and it's been an honor to learn about how to put in that work.
The work put into protest logistics is done with great intention.
We can't have a successful protest unless we work together. We have lead tactical who helps call the shots. Division of labor, we have a dedicated media team, we have a dedicated security team, we have people dedicated to different aspects of logistics.
People like...
My name is Merlin Van Alstyne.
One of the leads on the media team for the protest movement on the University of Minnesota campus.
So like social media is kind of like a combined effort for all of us, but I usually end up running Instagram and Twitter and things for us, and that's been very, very important for getting our message out and like giving people schedules for everything. We make sure to give everybody the straight facts. We tell people what's happened throughout the day, if we need some bail funds, if we need people to like call the jail, or if we're like in last night when we made like the cops run away, we like made sure to post about that right away.
If it weren't for social media and people being able to see like how we're setting them up, like how we're handling our logistics and the way that we're handling like talking to media, things like that, I don't think as many people would feel as empowered or like it was a reality for them.
They get to see firsthand the impact social media has.
It's really powerful. Being in charge of social media is always such a treat because you get to see people get excited. You get to see the comments of people being like, where can I like send funds, or like I'm here to drop off food and sort of things like that. So you like get to see the behind the scenes of like where all this stuff is coming from and like how excited the rest of like the community is.
We're able to see so many different angles when other people post online of like the things that happened, and like in some cases, especially if people are cop watching, things like that, it just feels good to have those, I don't know, it's almost like extra evidence sometimes, but also like when those things spread around, just like the encampments have, there's like probably another dozen popping up every single day across the United States.
And how it's a way of connecting to a larger community in many ways.
It's been the highest honor of my life, and I'm not saying that lightly, to be supporting this cause and to working with the wonderful organizers in the UMN Divest Coalition, from YDSA to SJP to STJ and SDS. It is insane to me that this is what's needed to make people wake up to genocide and to fight back. But I'm really grateful that I'm surrounded by such a great group of organizers, and I really appreciate that. And I think that everyone should give an applause for the UMN Divest Coalition.
Through seeing other college campuses.
We are here as community in solidarity with the people of Gaza and also with the students across the country. We always collab with the like national SJP and national SDS accounts, and those get shared broadly with everybody else. So it's really cool to not only like see our encampment, but also like everybody else's encampment at the same time. When like things happen at other universities, people here are like ready to throw down, and I'm like, well, we don't have the National Guard here, guys. We can like calm down a little bit, but like it's really bad, and we're keeping an eye on the situation, but like it really is morale boosting for everybody.
I never thought that I would be up here one day and seeing students across the United States of America literally fighting the police for the Palestinian people. Students across the United States are standing up and rising up against the ruling class, and they're shouting to the world that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
And global connections to the people in Gaza.
We love the students of Harvard University. We hear the students of Harvard University. We respect the students of your university. Thank you, the students of Columbia University. We respect you. We hear you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We love you. We want to thank all the colleges that did their best, even the little things, even one sign or one flag, it means the world to us. Today we're speaking on behalf of the students in Gaza.
Do you feel Follow Wizard is on?
Yes.
Hey everyone, this is Bisan from Gaza.
What is it meant to be able to like see that first person view into what's happening?
It's honestly, that's the reason that people know about what's going on in Gaza, is because of the reporters, and it's been so powerful to see those things.
This is their style. This is how they are working for decades. Why do you think they are occupying us for 75 years.
Especially Basan, Palestia, and Motaz specifically have just been very powerful and people that I would look up to.
Finally, the encampments have given us hope. On the other side, the greater the size and the impact of these demonstrations, the more attempts to manipulate them and to waste their efforts. So we need to refocus. We need to remember always, why are we doing this? Why are we protesting in the campuses across the US and the world? The students' movements are not only for students. It's about divesting Zionism, withdrawing the investment, and the most important goal, to end the genocide. And while a lot groups, individuals, universities,
there's people that I want to embody and give the spirit of, and it's really cool that they're in solidarity with us and also that we're in solidarity with them.
And so you were just mentioning your social media encounter. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
But Mira Altobel Resendez says this level of accessibility to students through social media does garner some adverse attention.
Yeah, so when we were arrested and the pictures were released of us, obviously Crime Watch Minneapolis is a very popular Twitter account that posted all of our mugshots on there. So there are a lot of interesting comments.
What does the fact that people who are outside of this are able to comment on this through social media about you?
I honestly think it's a positive thing because obviously I've already talked plenty about the negative comments, and what really rises to the top for me and for most other people are all of the positive comments that are standing on our side. Social media is how people found out about the arrest, and following the arrest, our movement actually grew stronger. More people came out because they were seeing just how directly the injustice was playing out on our campus so close to home.
Organizers say that despite adversity, the further out their word gets, the more impact that will be had.
At the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. It's not about getting the likes or the views or whatever, or it's not even about those of us who got arrested. It's about winning our demands for a free Palestine to get our universities to divest.
Visibility is one of our strongest weapons in a campaign like this. Back in the day, there were encampments for apartheid in South Africa. We divested from South African apartheid before, and back then they didn't have social media. So now we have a better way of weaponizing eyes on our campaign so that we can call for divestment.
Emily Storm with my last segment for Radio K's The Real College Podcast. Every city lives and breathes through the people that inhabit it. From the cacophony of chaos during the day to the mischievous affairs of the night. Within this unsleeping city's limits are boundless sights and sounds and people whose only limits as to how much of it they can experience are how far they dare to venture out. On the tailwind of a morning train are bustling bodies, all dutifully drudging through the melting snow of their morning commute. When, wafting through the air, is the unmistakable embrace of a comfort that is smelled before seen. The frothing of milk and the crumpling of croissant papers acting as a lifeline to those anticipating a long day.
Thank you. I love the day.
Bagel for Elena?
On a stroll through the streets are reminders of the wholesome communities of the city.
Would you like to support my trip by buying some Girl Scout cookies?
Suddenly, the air carries a new comfort, one that reverberates deeper now. A concert, hidden from plain sight but golden to those that venture deeper to find its treasure. And as dusk settles, the mischievous endeavors of the night awaken.
Thank you, brother.
And as if ships passing in the night, do the morning commuters exchange the city with its night owls. As the unsleeping city's patrons prepare to do it all again.